Sounds like the signs. Wait. All right, so now we're looking at lecture note for economic history, timeline for chapter 3 and 4, medieval Europe and non-Western economies, also known, called by our authors, the period of religious dominance. We learned that since the beginning of recorded history, there was a 10% warrior priest ruling class and 90% were in servitude, and we had different reasons for that. Again, it was before recorded history, so no one really knows why. So you have the fall of Rome, and then so the Muslim world takes over the southern part of the Roman Empire after the death of Muhammad in 632. So you have Islamic proselytizing into Europe. And so this is the key to understanding the development of the world through capitalism starts in the Italian city-states. So again, you no longer have an empire, you're starting decentralized. Especially with the Italian city-states, Venice and Genoa in particular were the big ones. And what we have is what's known as the Proto-Institutions of Capitalism. The first is the bills of exchange. So what the bills of exchange are, again, you get a gold standard, fiat money, the gold florin. So this starts the gold standard. And the way it would work is you would have decentralized city-states throughout Europe. And these city-states would trade with each other. And the bills of exchange are very important in economic history because the bills of exchange are the first contracts, the first insurance documents, the first start of banking, the first start of accounting, the first start of charging interest under the theory of time preference for waiting, the time preference theory of money. So you would have a trader deposit money here, deposit gold florin here in Genoa, and then the bank would give them a piece of paper, bills of exchange. Not the Bank of England, bills of exchange. Then let's say that, so they deposit, let's say they deposit 10 gold florins. And again, the Pope now is declaring the charging of interest for money as against religious dogma, or it's wrong to charge interest for lending money. Where we learned that it's just simply an exchange of time preference. So you deposit 10 gold, 10 florins, Genoa, the trader, the entrepreneur, and then it takes, let's say, 3 months to get to London. And that piece of paper says that 3 months later, the person gets 11, right? So you're getting, because you don't want to travel with gold because of the non-stationary bandit or the stationary bandits. You want to get your gold stolen, so you carry a piece of paper. And then that allows the trader to get their gold, buy something in London, and then take it and sell it back home. And so this is insurance against theft. It's a contract for exchange. And it's got time preference theory of money despite religious dogma. And all over Europe, this is occurring. All over the West, this is occurring. And what happens in England in 1689, not under the period of religious dominance, England separates the finances of the church and the crown. So now the crown, the state, has to raise its own money. And they do that by borrowing under the gold standard. We'll get to that. Another case in history when that was violated, and that led to the South Sea boom and bust. So because England starts finance, and then based on the bills of exchange, London becomes the center of debt finance under 200 years before capitalism, 250 years before the stage of history called capitalism. And that's because of the development of debt markets based on the bills of exchange, which evolved from medieval Europe. And so England was the center of debt finance, still is. It's no longer called the London Interbank Offer Rate, but international interest rates are determined in London, which is evolved from the bills of exchange of the medieval period. And then, of course, the bills of exchange, then you have banking, and then you have accounting. And so the reason that, and then partnerships, in other words, business entities, you're getting the institutions of capitalism being evolved. So these simple partnerships, especially again, Genoa and Venice, were traders. We'll look at the manorial economic system, the economic system which evolved after the fall of the Roman Empire. Then we have the growth of the cities, especially the Italian city-states, and then trade is expanded beyond the boundaries of the Roman Empire. So now you're getting a larger Western community. And Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean, North Sea, and overland through towns. So they would trade. People would meet in these towns to trade along the way. And then, so because of, okay, here's Venice and Genoa compete for monopoly trade with Asia. So the Pope would grant monopoly power to trade with Islam. Only whoever the Pope determined could trade with Islam was allowed to trade with Islam. And this involves capital investment into stages of production, including ships. And these ships would last for generations. So you start to get forms of business enterprise to account for longer than one generation. And that led to accounting. And then, according to our authors, the medieval economy was at a peak in around 1300 Common Era. And then the medieval Europe then ends with the bubonic plague. You have the 100-year war between England and France. England and France aren't trading. You're having England is protecting their landed class from competition by preventing French agriculture imports, which allows the landed class's land values to be higher than they would had there been competition. Which is why the Enlightenment doesn't occur in England at Cambridge and Oxford, is because you have the, you'd say the spoiled rich landed class who go to Cambridge and Oxford not to learn, but to associate with their class. So you get the proto-institutions of capitalism developed with the Italian city-states, especially the bills of exchange, and then trade needing to account for that through business entity and accounting. Medieval economy at the peak. You have the Pope then. Okay, and then at the same time, contemporarily, you have the growth of the Ottoman Empire into parts of the Muslim world, modern Europe, and parts of the Ottoman Empire last until World War I. Then you get holding companies, or these banks then establish branches. And the largest bank holding company, Bardi and Peruzzi, are bankrupt due to overextension of credit to impecunious sovereigns. In other words, the crown is saying, lend me money at below market rates of interest or I'll take away your monopoly. So then you have the bubonic plague, and that's the end of medieval Europe, and then the start of the early modern period.